Namaskar. Hello friends, I am Major Saras Tripathi, author of Silent Constitution, Dangerous Consequences and Maun Samvidhan Bhayanak Parinam. Today we are going to discuss the fourth chapter of my book, that is direct election of Prime Minister and Chief Ministers. As you know, we have adopted the parliamentary form of government. The party that gains majority in Lok Sabha, its leader becomes the Prime Minister. And it is a cabinet system where responsibility lies with the cabinet. And Prime Minister is considered to be first among equals. The parliamentary form of government is based on gaining majority in the lower house, that is Lok Sabha. And this system has been adopted from Great Britain. It is substantially different from the presidential form of governance that is in the United States of America. Now, the first question is, what is the proposal? In this chapter, in direct election of PM and CM, I have proposed that the Prime Minister of India and the Chief Ministers of all the states should be elected directly by the people. At present, they are not being elected by the people, but by the MPs in case of the central government and by the MLAs in case of a state government. So, it is not direct election but indirect election, and so it is an indirect democracy. It is not a direct democracy. People do not know who will become the Chief Minister, who will become the Prime Minister. At times they know, at times they do not know. I am going to analyze and give examples when people didn't know who their Prime Minister is going to be. There are times when people didn't know who their Chief Minister is going to be, and there are occasions when they had Chief Ministers within 2-3 days, 2-3 Chief Ministers, based on how much horse trading one party or the other party has done. So, it is very important to ensure that a nation like ours has a direct democracy where people know whom they are going to elect and people know who is going to be their Chief Minister or the Prime Minister. That is why this proposal. Now, the question comes, what is the need of having this kind of amendment in the constitution or the system? The answer is very simple. This form of government, that is the parliamentary form of government, has many inherent weaknesses, and when we go through the 75 years of history of parliamentary form of government and cabinet system of governance, we realize this. Let us start from 1951 when we had first election. From 1951 till 1989, there was not much of problem. The reason is the governments had clear majority most of the time. There was no problem because people gave clear mandate to state assemblies and to the Lok Sabha. The problem began in 1989 after fall of the government of Shri Rajiv Gandhi, when he could not make it to the majority in his second election, and with 143 members, Mr. VP Singh became the Prime Minister. This number is very important because 143 number is less than what is required for the majority in the Lok Sabha. Now, before proceeding, let us understand the system. The system works like this. There are two houses in the parliament, that is lower house what we call Lok Sabha and the upper house what we call Rajya Sabha. It is on the similar pattern as the British have their parliament, that is House of Commons and House of Lords. So, House of Lords is a permanent house, and in India Rajya Sabha is the permanent house, whereas Lok Sabha has a tenure of 5 years. The upper house, that is known as House of Lords, in Britain is a permanent house. Its counterpart in India is Rajya Sabha, that is a permanent house. 2/3 members of this house change every second year, whereas Lok Sabha has a fixed tenure of 5 years, and every 5 years there is supposed to be election. The Prime Minister is elected or rather appointed in India like this. The party which has majority in the Lok Sabha has the right to form the government, and its leader, whosoever is elected, is appointed as the Prime Minister. The catchword is appointed, not elected. The President appoints him after due diligence, and leader of Lok Sabha, he is called leader of Lok Sabha, and he is actually the leader of majority party in Lok Sabha. Now, in Lok Sabha there are 552 seats as per the existing provisions. However, effectively there are only 545 members. Out of these 545 members, 2 are nominated by the President from amongst the Anglo-Indian community, and they do not have right to vote. So, effective strength of Lok Sabha comes 543, and the majority mark comes to 272. So, any party which gains majority, that is 272, becomes eligible to form the government. From 1951 to 1989 there was no problem, because off and on, or rather invariably, the election were clear, the majority was clear, so governments, there was no problem. The problem came in 1989 when no party got clear majority and no party was in a position to form the government. Janata Party with 143 members, led by Sri Vishwanath Pratap Singh, rather I think it was Jan Morcha as they used to call it, tried to form the government, and with the help of several parties including BJP, support from outside, they formed the government. But it was very unstable government because of difference of opinion, difference of ideology, difference of policies. The government could not last for long, and in Lok Sabha VP Singh lost the no confidence motion and he had to resign. Then with 56 members of parliament, Chandrasekhar was appointed as the Prime Minister. Since his government was minuscule government, it also could not carry on for long, and he had to resign. That is how all this coalition era started. Since the government could not carry on, VP Singh could not prove the majority, and Chandrasekhar could also not prove majority, they were minority governments. The election was imminent. In 1991 there was election of next Lok Sabha. But since people had no clear mandate, the Congress was the largest political party, but it was short of majority. So Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, who was elected leader of the majority party, tried to form the government with the help of various smaller parties. And that is how the JMM, that is Jharkhand Mukti Morcha bribery case began. JMM has a few number of members of parliament, and Mr. Narasimha Rao wanted their support. It was alleged that they were bribed to vote in favor of Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao. And this continued till 2014 for almost 25 years, that is called coalition era, because no party could gain majority, and the party which was the largest party or was in a position to form the government, they kept on trying to garner support from various parties. From 1989 to 2014, the country was in mess. There was initiative paralysis. Important and strong policy decision could not be taken, because any policy decision, either one partner, supporter or the other was not happy. There was conflict of interest. There were various coalitions, various parties which were supporting. They had their own agenda, they had their own interest. So they devised a common minimum program, that is where we can work and where there is no controversy. The very word common minimum program itself declares that the nation cannot have maximum growth or maximum programs. It is a common minimum program. So they were working on very thin, in a narrow strip for the country. This is the biggest loss to the nation. When there is no majority, no clear majority in the Lok Sabha. That is how it happens. And there are many examples that I have given in my book, that how the nation suffered. There were people who were sold and purchased, the bribes were given, coalitions were formed and broken, there was policy paralysis, there were remote controls, there were the prime ministers whom people didn't know, there were prime ministers who wouldn't have actually got even 10% of the vote if election was held, but they became prime minister. So the parliamentary form of government that we have adopted had become a fertile ground for all kind of corruption. That is why I have written in my book, Silent Constitution, Dangerous Consequences, that constitution is silent in case there is no majority to any government. And I would like to quote certain things from the book itself. Coalition era started from 1989 and carried on till 2014, and we had many prime ministers including Mr. VP Singh, Chandrasekhar, PV Narasimha Rao, HD Dev Gowda, IK Gujral, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Dr. Manmohan Singh. Average life during this period, that is 25 years from 89 to 2014, average life of Lok Sabha was only 3 years, because in 25 years there were 8 Lok Sabhas which were elected and none could complete their tenure except last 2 Lok Sabha, that was led by Dr. Manmohan Singh. And from 89 to 99, in 10 years, there were 5 Lok Sabhas, that is average life of Lok Sabha was only 2 years, because no government could carry on because of internal or external conflicts, and government fell and the nation had no option but to go for next election. In next election also there was fractured mandate. So again the same kind of horse trading, making of and unmaking of coalitions began. A very classical example is when in the 12th Lok Sabha, Bharatiya Janata Party could not gain majority. In fact, from 11, 12 and 13 Lok Sabha, Bharatiya Janata Party was the leading party. It had got maximum number of seats, but it could not form the government. Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee claimed to form the government, and he could not prove the majority, so his government lasted only for 13 days in first attempt. In second attempt it lasted for 13 months. In fourth attempt he could complete his tenure. In fact, prematurely he dissolved the Lok Sabha and they went for the election. Now the most interesting is the 12th Lok Sabha, where he lost, the government fell because of only one vote. The question is, a nation of 1,300 million people can afford to go for election, remain without government just because of vote of one member of parliament, this side or that side? He had lost his government because of one vote. So the nation has to think whether we want to fall into turmoil just because of one vote. I call it systemic failure. A system that is failing us continuously needs to be changed. That is why I have recommended direct election of PM and CM. The core issue here is, can a nation of more than 1,300 million people and largest democracy in the world allow such vulnerabilities? Can a single vote of some MP be allowed to take the whole country to the brim of chaos? Can we allow draining of public exchequer on election after election? Can we allow so much of instability for no rhyme or reason? Can we keep on following a system that is not able to sustain itself and has no power to prevent systemic failure? Are we such an incompetent nation that we cannot take remedial action and remain in the perennial failure? These are the questions that needs to look into based on my recommendations. There are many examples that I have given in the book, where, and one classical example is of Jharkhand, where one independent MLA becomes the chief minister. The story goes like this briefly. Mr. Madhu Koda was independent MLA, and the situation was such in the state assembly that wherever in whichever side he would have voted, that would have formed the government. and he exploited this situation to the hilt. First he supported the Bharatiya Janata Party and became a minister. Then opposition tried to lure him to give him deputy chief minister's position, and he was lured into their greed. He was made deputy chief minister. Then he realized that my situation is so strong that even I can become the chief minister. So he claimed that if until I am made the chief minister, I will withdraw the support. So he was made the chief minister. Now what was the result? The result was a big lesson for parliamentary form of government to understand and do research on this and change the system. The treasury of Jharkhand government at that point of time was 19,600 crore rupees, and out of that the chief minister was alleged, I say again alleged, to have embezzled approximately 4,000 crore rupees. That is almost rather more than 25% of the treasury was embezzled. Some people have put it looted by the chief minister himself, and he was convicted in the court. The point is not that whether he was convicted, he was not convicted. The point is not that only it is Madhu Koda or somebody else also. The point is why we make the system so vulnerable. This kind of system has created by us, and if it is continuously failing us, we must change it. That is why I have recommended direct election of PM and CM. If we analyze, we will find that this kind of situation arose only because there was need of majority vote, and gaining the majority in the Lok Sabha or in the state assembly is the root cause of corruption. Today also we are saying if there is no party which has got clear majority, then horse trading starts. One government falls and other party takes over, and how it happens everybody knows. It's open secret that crores of rupees are being spent on sale and purchase of MLAs and MPs. And if we go for direct election of PM and CM, this problem will completely get eliminated. There are many benefits of directly electing the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister, and most important of them, rather I will say a few very important of them are like this. First, this will completely eliminate any chance of horse trading, because no party will be needing majority in the state assembly or the Lok Sabha, because people have already elected the Chief Minister and the Prime Minister directly. So there is no need for majority, one. Number two, it will delineate the legislature and executive. As we know, there are three pillars of democracy, that is executive, what we call in Hindi Vyavasthapika, and legislature, that is Vidhayika, where rules are framed, and third is the judiciary. What is happening today in parliamentary form of government, the legislatures themselves are the ministers also. Like in the entire government, it's a state government or central government. In state government, MLAs are ministers, and in central government, MPs are minister. So those who are supposed to be framing the law, they are the administrator also, they are part of executive. So there is overlap in legislature and the executive. If we follow this system, what I am recommending, that is presidential form of, the direct election of PM and CM, so this problem will get eliminated. Like people will elect the Prime Minister, he will be the executive head, and he will have the liberty of choosing the people even outside from the MPs, and there will be delineation of the legislature and executive. The MPs will only frame the law, and executive will be under no obligation to appoint them as minister. Rather, Prime Minister will have the liberty to appoint the ministers from outside the parliament, and he can choose the best talent. He will be responsible to the parliament as it is today. And third is that the Prime Minister will have no obligation of obliging any political party, because they are supporting them. In fact, the PM will not need any support in the parliament, because he has been elected directly by the people. Similarly, the chief minister. So there are many advantages of this system, and it will eliminate the kind of corruption that starts at the very beginning. I have enlisted the problems that come because of the parliamentary form of the government, and I will just read them out from the book. Lessons learned from the above case study can be summarized as below. Parliamentary form of government has very serious flaws and the experience of close to 72 years has been more bitter than sweet. It defeats the very purpose and spirit of democracy, as it is not a direct democracy where we the people can choose a person of our choice to govern us. It is an indirect democracy where MPs, MLAs have all the powers to choose, change, enthrone or dethrone the real ruler, PM or the CM. Instead of democracy, it becomes an oligarchy where a coterie is the real power holder, not we the people. The MP and MLA have potential to keep on changing or have the power to do so. The PM, even if that person may not win even 10% of the vote. Shri Deve Gowda and late I.K. Gujral are the best examples of this weakness of the system. At the state level, there are so many examples that it will make voluminous book to cite all this. The classic example I have given is of Madhu Khoda. It is vulnerable to factionalism. The governor has a lot of potential and to manipulate on the instructions of the central government. It provides in a stable government, particularly when it is a coalition. Instability hampers long-term planning, growth, development and threatens security of the nation. So there are many flaws that are because of the parliamentary form of the government, and what is the remedy is, I have recommended that the Prime Minister and Chief Minister should be elected directly by the people. In this I have given example of deep study of 25 years, what was the position of different parties, how the coalitions were working. It will be very important to cite there were ministers who had no knowledge of neither Hindi nor English, the two languages that Government of India works with. So it is anybody's guess that what these ministers must have been doing, but the question comes why they were there. They were there because if they were not there, then the government would have fallen. They were there because coalitions, those who were supporting the government, they wanted them to be there. And what they were doing, they were not doing any work of the government, rather they were looting the government treasury. That is why during this period maximum corruption cases had taken place. And as we know, because of the coalition era, there was a minister from DMK who mostly used to stay in Madurai instead of Delhi. He neither knew English nor he knew Hindi. So one can guess what kind of decisions he might have been taking. He was not even able to read the files. So he was completely dependent on bureaucracy, but he was the minister. And that is why 2G, 3G, Jijaji, all kind of these jargons came into play, because as we know, Coal G, so many G's had happened because of compulsion of coalition era. It is not the fault of one person, it is a systemic failure. So blaming one person is not right, because the Prime Minister had to make the compromises. Even Mr. Vajpayee had to keep in good humor all the partners, and Mr. George Fernandes on his behalf used to go and convince one minister at least. Several ministers were only there to ensure that the government survives. So this kind of government cannot take important decisions. It's very important that we should change this system. It will put an end to most of the flaws of the present system, that is parliamentary form of government. It will bring true democracy. It will allow we the people to choose our ruler / leader directly. It will usher in direct democracy. The oligarchy of power brokers, the coteries, the manipulators, the bargain masters and middlemen, the horse traders, etc. will eliminate. It will bring out the true leader who will be chosen by the popular vote directly by the majority of the people. It will eliminate vulnerability and possibility of manipulations, role of governors and central government. Era of coalition will be over, all shops of bargain will be closed. There will be stability, long-term planning and execution of programs, sustainable growth, development and security. It will substantially reduce corruption. It will have cascading effect in controlling corruption in public life. Government will not be sold before it is formed. The PM and CM will have no constraint or obligation to appoint a talentless person only to satisfy the coalition partner. It will substantially reduce the burden of public exchequer. public resources and government machinery by avoidance of dissolution of house and midterm polls. The PM can choose best talent without compromising on the premise of accommodating the coalition partners. He doesn't need anyone's support for sustenance of his government. It will separate executive and legislature, that is the parliament. The parliament will be better off in scrutinizing the proposed bills. The MPs, MLAs can concentrate on enactment of required acts and laws. The MPs, MLAs and MLAs will still have the eligibility to become the minister if the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister chooses so. However, the Prime Minister, Chief Minister will have no obligation to accommodate them. And what will be the methodology, how to go about it? The question is that the Constitution does not permit this kind of system. So, I have given in the book how this can be done without changing the fundamental of the Constitution. So, I have proposed that who can be the candidate for the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister. So, there is a criteria. It is not that any Tom, Dick and Harry can stand up for the Prime Minister's post and there are thousands of contestants. So, that will be a chaos. I have given that any party or the coalition also which has 20% of the vote in the last election can field its candidate. But concluding that there will be 5 contestants will be wrong, because what happens, government is formed only on the condition that party which has majority in Lok Sabha, only that party can run the government. So, what will happen, approximately 50% of the vote is of only one party. So, I have given a complete case study. At the most 3 candidates can be fielded for the Prime Minister's post, and same is for the Chief Minister, which is not more. Actually, in reality only there will be 2 candidates, in exceptions only there will be 3 candidates by this criteria, though the criteria is 20%. But because of reasons of I have explained, there are likely to be not more than 3 candidates, and they should be elected directly. This election should be done simultaneously with the election of MLAs and MPs. So, the Lok Sabha, state assemblies, Prime Minister and Chief Ministers are elected simultaneously, and this will eliminate a lot many malices in the system. Further, it needs because it is an idea is the most important thing. This can be worked on, not necessarily what I have recommended needs to be taken in toto. There are think tanks, there are intellectuals, there are administrators, there are policy makers, there are parliamentarians, the government, and they can think over it. However, this is a seedling on which they can work, and this can be done. So, thank you very much for listening. Namaskar.